Guys, welcome back to another video. This is another oversimplified reaction, and this one is the French Revolution part 1, and this is another revolution or historical thing that happened that I'm not too sort of aware of what happened during it. Again, I don't really know. I don't even know when this happened. Like, does it say in the? Does it say like when it happened here? No, so I don't actually know if it was in like the 18th century, the 17th century, the 19th century. I don't actually have a clue. And it's the same. It's similar to like the American Revolution. I probably knew more about the American Revolution going into it compared to the French Revolution. Like I knew a little few bits here and there. This one I genuinely don't know. Maybe when I get into the video, I'll sort of remember a few things from seeing it. But I'm gonna be honest. I don't have a clue. I'm very, very unaware. Like I said about 10 times already. But we love the channel. Some of my favourite videos. Why am I not subscribed? I swear I subscribed to him before. Maybe I unsubscribed on accident. That's weird. Maybe it unsubscribed me. That's really strange because I know I definitely did subscribe to him. But we're back with another oversimplified video. We're back on this. There's not many more to do, but I'm trying to sort of spread it out a bit longer. So once every few days, because I want to have videos to react from this channel for a few weeks at least. But we're going to do the French Revolution within a few days, and hopefully you guys are going to enjoy. Suggest what oversimplified video you'd like next, because I do love reacting to this channel. He's one of my favourite videos, to be honest, one of my video creators, to be honest. His humour, how he sort of links it with just like learning at the same time. It's just, I love these videos, man. But let's get into this. We're here with a sponsor.
This video was made possible
get your money,
by
bro. You know how it is.
Get protected by clicking the link below and get an amazing 75% off. That's only $2.99 per month with an additional month free for a limited time. Also, new French Revolution merch available now in the store.
I'll let him plug
Marie Antoinette character pins, complete with detachable heads, just like the real thing. So I said to the Marquis de la Fufayette, "What do you think I am? Some dirty peasant? I've never worked a day in my life." Wow, that Marie Antoinette sure is pretty. Sure is. Wouldn't want to be Prince Louis though. That's going to be a lot of responsibility when he becomes king, especially since France is in financial ruin. Quite. Thank you one and all for attending the royal marriage of my grandson, the future King of France, to the Archduchess of Austria. Now for the very awkward yet historically accurate part of the ceremony, where we all watch them get into bed together.
Wait, what?
All right, now that's out of the way, let's leave the royal couple to it. You better give us an heir, you fat, ill-bred boy. Nighty-night. That's gonna be a lot of responsibility. France is in financial ruin. You fat, ill-bred boy. Quite. That's gonna be a lot of responsibility. France is in financial ruin.
What the hell?
That's gonna be a lot of responsibility. Oh, great. He's a freaking weirdo.
I love his little intros, man.
France, the most prosperous, cultured, and beautiful nation in the world.
I'm going to turn it up a little bit, just to make sure it's not too bad. I think it's alright, but...
As it had been for centuries, an exquisite social culture, with the king and the upper classes throwing crazy parties every night, enjoying high living and fine dining. Who cares that they were only able to do so off the backs of the hard-working, starving poor? What are they gonna do? Revolt? They're only 80% of the population. No. Life in France is great. What's that, France? You want to go to war with Britain and increase your power? Go for it, little buddy. You do you. And you lost. Now you're in severe financial debt. We have no money. What do? Should we stop partying? Heck no. Party harder. That's okay. The peasantry will pick up the slack. They were created by God to do all the work, and you were created to reap all the benefits and party hard. That's just how society works, and we've all just accepted it for centuries.
When you deep it, it is actually kind of messed up how that is just how society is sort of formed.
Why?
Messed up, man.
Why what? Why do the nobility
back then
feel rich and stuff? Just because they were born into it? And the rest of us schmucks just have to accept that? Hell, why do we even need a king? Who decided that? It all just seems very unfair and unequal, and I, for one, am starting to question it. Wow, that's very enlightened of you. And so began the Age of Enlightenment. Great philosophical thinkers across France and beyond began to question whether this beautiful nation was really all that beautiful after all. Hey, Prince Louis, bad news. Your grandpa died of smallpox this morning, which means good news, you're now the king. So just to sum up, France is in severe financial debt, and the angry populace are beginning to question how necessary you are. But hey, I believe in you, champ. You got this. Maybe. Oh no! Prince Louis Capet became King Louis XVI in May 1774. He was a notoriously weak man, and he knew it. He barely had the wisdom to rule a nation, never mind one in crisis, and he was easily manipulated by those around him. One of his first acts was to try to get revenge on the British by financing their American colony's revolution.
Okay.
Hey, we're an independent nation now. That was real swell of you, Louis. Couldn't have done it without you. Glad I could help. So hey, about all that money we lent you, when can we get that back? Yep, you're a great guy. I'll never forget what you've done for us. Real glad I could help, friend. But
that's what you get, France. That's what you get.
About that money. Gotta go now, chum. Best of luck to you. Oh, no. And now France was in even more debt. France's poor, suffering under the strain of economic ruin, watched as the nobility continued to live as though nothing was wrong. In particular, they grew increasingly disdainful of the queen, Marie Antoinette, as she continued to spend all of France's money on her own luxurious lifestyle and fashion. While the peasants were breaking their backs in the fields, she was walking around like, hey, my hair is about. I'm not making that up. Her hair really was about.
What?
And her lavish spending earned her the nickname Madame Deficit. And speaking of the queen, there was also a long-standing scandal around the fact that the king took a very long time to boink her, and the working classes of Paris began ridiculing the royal couple with lewd pamphlets depicting the queen as a court thought, and the king as a wuss, unable to fulfill his marital duty. Respect for the monarchy was at an all-time low, as France's finances were spiraling out of control, and the king and his aides really only had one solution to the crisis. Tax the poor. Tax the poor. We could do it.
Actually, even though this is like 300 years ago, that just pisses me off, man. I'm not gonna lie. And it is, obviously it's different now, but they hide it in different ways. It's still the same kind of concept. But the fact that you're taxing the poor when they're probably still living that sort of lifestyle, it's just mad how this was even able to happen. And you can really truly understand why the revolt is going to come and why it happened. When I say it's going to come, I mean it's going to come in this part one, because obviously we've not got to that yet, but you can fully understand why, man. And the only thing I can really think is why they didn't do it sooner, but maybe they were scared of like the repercussions, etc. But bloody hell, they're taxing the poor. What? If that happened nowadays, I can't imagine the reaction in any country or any first world country. I can't imagine the reaction. It'd be mental.
I mean, tax the poor. And so it was. The poor, who were already struggling to make ends meet, found themselves being taxed from every direction.
It's just
hey,
wild.
I'm the royal tax collector. Looks like you've yet to pay your income tax, head tax. By the way, how many windows you got in that house of yours? 3?
Window tax, isn't it?
There's going to be a tax for that. Hey,
Yes.
your local priest here. Have you paid your church tithe yet? Well, at least this one is going to the good work of God. Sure. God. After this year, God wants me to buy a new swimming pool. Hey, private tax collector here. Oh, and I brought some goons with me. Just a few quick questions. How much salt did you buy this year? About 7 kilos, I think? Yep. Okay, there's going to be a tax for that.
What?
Oh, what's that over there? And that's extra salt I held over from last year, so I wouldn't have to buy as much this year. Oh, yeah, there's a tax for that. And what are you doing with all this salt? Well, obviously cooking. On the table. Yep. And preserving fish and meat. Oh no. Yep. And there's a tax for that. Hey, how old is he?
What?
He's 9. And so he's purchased his required amount of salt for this year, right? What? No, he's 9. Uh-oh. Sorry, little Timmy. Looks like I'm gonna have to tax you for that.
What?
Yep.
Salt.
Salty. There's going to be a tax for that. And that's not
Oh
all.
my
A huge
God.
portion of the peasants' harvest had to be given up. And there was also the labor tax, where peasants were required to work a certain number of days for their local lord without pay. Obviously, people weren't too happy with these taxation policies, and the aggressive nature of these private tax farmers sometimes even escalated to violence. In particular, though, the people really hated how inconsistent the taxation rules were across the nation, and also the fact that the
so
first 2
varied.
estates often had to pay very little, if any, tax at all. And so, the anger continued to grow. France had a population that was just about ready to explode. What could push them over the edge? How about a touch of natural disaster? A series of harsh summers and winters left the peasants' harvests in ruin, meaning they had no food or money, and the cost of bread skyrocketed. Of course, the upper classes had massive stocks of grain and wheat, so they were virtually untouched by this new crisis. But now the poor really were starving, and they began to riot. Women took to the streets. Bakeries
Is this where the phrase that the French know how to riot? I swear that's a phrase or something along those lines, because I know they love a riot, don't they? Or supposedly so. I swear that's the saying. If I'm completely wrong, I apologise.
And bakers suspected of keeping bread for themselves were sometimes even hanged. Wow, this is really getting out of control. Your Majesty, we need some decisive action. You need to step up and lead us. What will you do? Okay, I've got this. I know. I'll summon the Estates General, and they'll decide what to do. You really are a fat, ill-bred boy. The Estates General was the closest thing France had to a government, apart from the king. It was a purely advisory body and was rarely summoned. In fact, it hadn't been summoned for 175 years prior to this. But with France in a severe crisis, the king felt the time was right to call on the government to help. The Estates General was made up of representatives.
Wait, what did that say? What did it say on the graph? I didn't actually read that. We're rich, party time. We're losing money, still party time. We have no money, party to forget. Heads are gonna roll. Lol joke, keep partying.
Felt the time was right to call on the government to help. The Estates General was made up of representatives from the three estates, that is, the clergy, the nobility, and everybody else. Okay, thanks for coming, everyone. The first order of business is regarding the clergy and nobility. You all get brand new Porsches. You get a Porsche, and you get a Porsche, and you get a Porsche. Everybody gets a Porsche. And now into the second order of business. France is completely out of money. Like, it's never been this bad before. Anyone got any ideas? How about we all get Lamborghinis next time? The king decided that in order to make a decision, they had to come up with a voting system. Okay, the clergy. You have a population of 130,000, so you'll get 1 vote. The nobility. You have a population of 350,000, so you'll also get 1 vote. And the third estate. You have a population of 27 million people and make up 98% of the population. Very impressive. You'll get 1 vote. The third estate were obviously...
That just pisses me off, man. I'm not gonna lie. It's annoying because you still see some of the stuff, obviously, again, not to the same extent. But in society nowadays, it's just so unbalanced.
I'm pretty unhappy with this system because they kept on finding that this would happen. We propose to raise taxes on the third estate. All in favor? All opposed? 2 to 1. Taxes will be raised on the third estate. We propose a motion that says the first 2 estates are a bunch of poo-poo heads. All in favor? All opposed? 2 to 1. It's official. We are not poo-poo heads. The third estate realized that any attempt at reform would be outvoted by the 2 upper estates, and they thought that was kind of lame. So they decided that since they were 98% of the population, they could go off to form their own government, make their own laws, and take over the running of the country. And so, the National Assembly was born. The third estate was now in control, and there was nothing the king could do to stop. Haha! I've locked you all out of your building. What are you gonna do about it? We'll probably go find a different building that isn't locked. Ow, no! The National Assembly did find another unlocked building, just down the road, an indoor tennis court. We're on the 20th of June, 1789. They all took the tennis court oath, pledging
They played tennis back in 1978... 1989? I can't fucking read. 1789. What? Is tennis really that old?
Meeting until the king finally gave in to their demands for more equality and economic reform. This new National Assembly included many of the most educated members of the Third Estate, including 2 young lawyers by the names of Maximilien Robespierre and Georges Danton. Some members of the first 2 estates even joined their cause. Some of these men formed a radical new political party called the Jacobin Club and quickly became leading figures. While many members of the Third Estate simply wanted more equality, a growing number in this Jacobin faction would begin calling for something even crazier, the removal of the king entirely.
Oh, wow.
And this is where fear began to take hold. With such a volatile situation developing, everyone was afraid of something. The king feared his position was under threat, and he called in the military to take position around Paris. The Third Estate heard rumor of the gathering military force, and they feared the king was planning to round them up and arrest them. Maybe he'd even execute them. It also didn't help that the king had just dismissed France's popular finance minister, who had been trying to make reforms himself. It seemed the king was done negotiating. Fear, left unchecked, often boils over into anger, and anger detonates with violence. The angry people of Paris, after centuries of cruel inequality, harsh oppression, even starvation, fearful of having their new movement for reform demolished so soon, decided that it was now or never to take action. Screw reform. They decided they'd do one better. How about revolution? The people of Paris, believing the French military was preparing to attack, decided they should arm themselves. The National Assembly announced the creation of a bourgeois militia, the National Guard, and immediately, many troops from the French military defected over to the revolutionary side.
Oh, wow.
In the early hours of July
That's
14th,
cold. I love that.
1789, a large crowd stormed and raided the Hotel
Coleman.
d'Amberley.
I love how like cold-blooded. Cold-blooded isn't the right word, but like how they were obviously knew what they were sort of defending or whatever was completely wrong. So they just came to the side that they actually believed in. And I actually rate that because you don't see that. Well, maybe I've just not seen enough of this kind of stuff. But usually you see like the armies or the people protecting the king or the royalty, whatever it is. They always defend them because they'll probably have more benefits given from the king. Even when they probably know, or even when they do know what they're defending is completely wrong. So I do actually really like that, man.
A military hospital where they were able to secure a large number of rifles. The bad news was they weren't able to find any gunpowder for their new weapons. The good news was they knew exactly where to get some. A prison fortress and a symbol of royal tyranny towering over Paris, the Bastille. Mid-morning, the crowd gathered around the Bastille and demanded that the man in charge, Governor Delaunay, surrender the prison and hand over the gunpowder. Obviously, Governor Delaunay was like, no way. So he stalled for time by inviting a few members of the crowd in for negotiations. The crowd, still waiting outside, quickly became impatient, and before long, they stormed the fortress, taking on the French troops inside. Your Majesty, we've received word that the people have surrounded the Bastille. Governor Delaunay will hold them off. No need to worry. Actually, Your Majesty, it appears the crowd is now headed away from the Bastille. You see? What did I tell you? Clearly, Governor Delaunay has defeated them and has them on the run. No need to worry. Your Majesty, isn't that Governor Delaunay's head on a pike?
Oh, wow.
Well, clearly, Governor Delaunay has taken on the form of a bodiless pikehead deity, and the people are so enamored with him, they're parading him around the city. No need to worry at all. When the National Assembly heard about the violence that had taken place, they had two options. Either one, they denounce it and try to carry on the revolution using peaceful means, or two, they say, damn, you stuck his head on a pike? That's pretty hardcore. And we love it. Incidentally, they went with option number 2. Some historians believe this reaction paved the way for the utter violence and bloodshed that would become the legacy of the French Revolution. This widespread acceptance of violence during the Revolution is also largely credited to the writings of a certain Jean-Paul Marat, a man of science with a horrible skin condition that kept him confined to a bathtub. He began writing a radical newspaper he affectionately named The Friend of the People. Citizens of France, be very afraid. Given the chance, the king and the nobility won't hesitate to massacre us all. The solution is simple. Execute them. Kill every last one of them. Cut off 1,000 heads, and if that's not enough, cut off 1,000 more. Oh, hey, Mr. Squeaky. What are you doing down there? You're so
psycho, bro.
Aw, I love you too, Mr. Squeaky. Mwah. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Kill them all. It became one of the most popular publications in Paris during the Revolution and succeeded in spreading ever-increasing fear and anger among the people. In August, leaders of the National Assembly, with help from a certain Thomas Jefferson, adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, an incredible document that guaranteed liberty and equal rights to all men. And when I say men, I mean men. Despite its glaring shortcomings in gender equality, the massively influential declaration would go on to inspire the struggle for liberty and equality across the planet for centuries. However, back in France, the vast majority of the people weren't really so concerned with enlightened ideas of equality as much as they were concerned with the fact that they were still starving. Bread was still expensive as hell and hard to come by. The people felt that one reason nothing had been done yet about the crisis was because the king simply couldn't see the problem. He lived in Versailles, a full 20 kilometers southwest of Paris, and as a result, lived in comfort, separated from his dirty, stinking subjects. On October 5th, a crowd of women, 7,000 strong, decided they'd do something unprecedented. They decided they'd remove that separation and confront the king directly. The women marched all the way to the king's palace in Versailles. Along the way, the crowd continued to grow into the tens of thousands, and when they arrived, they demanded an audience with the king. What are those things outside the palace? They're poor people, Your Majesty. That's poor people? They say they're hungry. Hungry? Then let them eat cake. Wow. See, this is the exact BS that led to this whole mess in the first place. You're so out of touch. They're writhing around in the filth, breaking their back to barely scrape by, and they come to you demanding just the basic ability to feed themselves, and you think a slice of cake will sort them out? Well, then let them eat Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme. Wow. They're not that desperate. Members of the crowd actually
Is it really that bad? Is Taco Bell really that bad?
managed to break into the palace with the intention of killing the queen, who narrowly escaped through a secret passage in her bedroom. The enraged mob killed several members of the royal guard and raised their heads on pikes, which, if you haven't noticed yet, is something they were quite fond of doing.
Yeah, they
The
seem
king
to
had
love
no
it.
choice but to come out and talk to the crowd. He agreed to accept his new position, sharing power with the revolutionary government, and to return to Paris with the crowd, removing the separation between king and subject. King Louis had a problem with people constantly raiding his palace, but one thing he didn't have a problem with was people raiding his computer, because he used NordVPN.
This is
If,
his
like
sponsor,
me,
yeah?
you don't like hackers
I love that, bro. Honestly, just get your money, man. You know how it is. I think that's the end of the video then, yeah?
some sweet Japanese
Part one, at
Netflix.
least.
Slack.
Yeah, but love that, man. Get your pee, I love that. What was I going to say? I was going to say something, now I forgot. Yeah, so far, this seems very violent, but, I mean, you look at this, and probably from the first, like, few minutes, you can see, like, the lower class people seem to be winning the revolution already, and obviously we know they will end up winning, because that is what the revolution would be, right? But it's kind of wild how so many people, so many of the... I keep saying army, but army isn't the right word, is it? The people who protect the king. I mean, I'm going to use the word army because I think it might be the right word. I'm probably just rambling here. How they, as soon as they they started the revolution, they joined them. And you don't, me personally, I wouldn't have expected that. Because, like, they would have probably been given a lot of sort of benefits from sort of protecting the king and all these kinds of things. So it is interesting that happened, but I do actually like that a lot because I wouldn't have really expected that kind of thing, especially back in like these kinds of days. Like, I don't know, it kind of surprises me that happened, but in part 2 we're going to see what actually happened when they overthrew him. I guess the king did some more things that led to them, because at this point you're sort of seeing it, and he's obviously being not in control. He's not being controlled, but he's being like outnumbered by the people by a massive amount, and he's sort of like having to sort of do what they say in a sense. And I'm intrigued to see what leads to like the true. This is probably this is the start of the revolution, but what leads to the end of it and all these kinds of things. But I really enjoyed this, man. I love this channel. I really do enjoy this channel. The French monarchy could have stayed stable if they just used Skillshare. It's kind of crazy how out of touch people in these kind of circumstances really were, though, and still probably are. Like, when you think about it, it's just kind of crazy. Johnny, yes, Papa. Eating sugar, no, Papa. That meme is so old. There's a tax for that. There's a tax for liking this comment, so 1,000 you better pay up. I'll like it anyway. Fuck it. Tax collector, have you paid your taxes, lady? Yep. Tax collector. Oh, there's a tax for that. There's a tax for everything. There's just a tax for everything. You use NordVPN? There's a tax for that. The French Revolution started because Marie Antoinette's hair was a bow. History is great for two things: learning memes. It's true. The memes that you get from this kind of stuff are insane. Especially in the YouTube comment sections. Are you reading this comment? Yes, there's a tax for that. There's like a meme on his channel, isn't it? There's just a tax for that. It seems to be a common sort of like thing in his videos. There's a tax for all these things that then end up leading to the revolutions. Especially when you like consider the poor people are the guys getting the tax, or the people getting the tax. Not the rich people, the poor people. It's mind-blowing. In 1917, Germany sent a telegram to Mexico telling them to attack the US, but the UK intercepted it and showed it to the US. This wouldn't have happened if Germany used NordVPN. Fuck's sake. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. Part 2 will probably be in the next few days, but I'm really enjoying this one, man. And we're going to do more. We're going to do the Three Kingdoms video reaction, the Russian Revolution, all of the videos that I've not done, the War of the Bucket, like lots of these things I don't even know about, and even like there's just more that I've not even seen. There's so many videos still. yeah, we're going to get to them probably in the next few weeks. And yeah, hopefully you guys are going to enjoy. Please leave a like if you did. And yeah, part 2 will be soon. We'll be coming with other video reactions as well. But yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.